What happened in Senegal a couple of weeks ago is quite disturbing, to say the least, because we had imagined that if you are going to pick a country in Africa to benchmark on in terms of the democratization process, Senegal would be one of them. We endeared and admired the country's democratic ethos. But that in the middle of an election campaign, the president rises and is able to convince, legislators to agree with him that an election should be extended, should be postponed on what we think are baseless and malevolent grounds. We think this was a rape on democracy, and we're happy that the Constitutional Court has agreed not only with the citizens of Senegal, but also with us,
Those distinguished election observers, you've had the privilege of being in so many different countries. What does this say about democracy in general in Senegal? Is it to that point where it's so fragile that any politician can literally do whatever they want to do with this thing called democracy?
Yeah, you're right. I think it's also the lack of consequences. Because I think he must have sat where he sat and observed the colleagues in many other other countries violating the constitutions and tinkering with them at will and getting away with it. If we did not see the overwhelming condemnation of the actions of deferring the elections in Senegal, this guy would not have yielded, would not have budged.
So in the case of Senegal, Macky Sall has a lot of power at his disposal. He could literally or unilaterally decide to do whatever he wants. Do you think with this ruling coming into play, saying that, hey, whatever you're trying to do has to stop, what you did was unconstitutional, you need to go back to the drawing board and hold elections so that there is a transition to a new government? Do you think he can abide by that?
We should not relent at this point, because if we now relent and say, okay, the Constitutional Court has made a ruling, our voices have been heard, and then we relax. He's likely to wait after about, if the tempo cools down 1-2 weeks, he might say, okay, let the election be there, but instead of December, let's have it in October. You can clearly see he's trying to buy time and pull off something. And the one learning we get from that National Assembly of Senegal, those men and women, those legislators that voted in favor of that decision, they should be held to account until the election is conducted, because otherwise I take nothing for granted. I don't think there's anything that has changed. I think until that election, until that ballot is cast and the people of Senegal have had their say on who is going to be the next president,